Once upon a time, there was a kind monk who lived in a monastery. He was humble, and he loved the poor, answering all their requests for aid. The monastery's bishop saw how gracious he was, so he made him the supervisor, entrusting him with all the monastery's monetary affairs. True to the teachings of the Lord, the monk never denied any poor person's request, giving all the money away, even giving his clothes if he had nothing else to give. Yet the Lord never allowed the chest to be emptied, for as soon as the kind monk finished distributing what the monastery had, the Lord sent more gifts and donations. But some of the monks didn't share the kind monk's unwavering faith. They felt that at least a part of the money or donations should be held back in case the monastery needed funds. So they went to the bishop and asked him to remove the monk from the monastery. The bishop, with a sad heart, accepted their request because they were many. So the good monk and his disciples left the monastery and went to live in another monastery, enjoying a life of worship and peace. The supervisor of the new monastery admired the new arrival's generosity, his virtue of charity, and his skills and honesty. They became friends, and the supervisor consulted the good monk on all the monastery's matters. Then the patriarch of the church died, and the monastery's supervisor became the new patriarch. After a couple of years, there was a need for a new bishop, so the patriarch remembered the monk and his good deeds and appointed him bishop. The generous bishop maintained his old habits, giving everything he had at his disposal to the poor, holding nothing back. And as before, the Lord always sent more gifts and more donations. Then one day the rich members of the congregation saw the old cathedral of the archbishopric lacking in luster, so they started gathering money to build a new cathedral and gave it to the bishop. They made an agreement with the contractor and came to the bishop to collect a down payment. But the bishop answered them, "My good children, the cathedral is already built in heaven. I gave all the money to the poor." The rich men became furious. They wanted the new cathedral to be built so they could pride themselves on constructing such an important monument. So they went to the patriarch, complaining that the bishop had wasted their donations, but admitting that he had given the money to the poor. The patriarch summoned the bishop to ask him about what had happened to the donated money. When the bishop arrived at the patriarch's room, he took off his scarf and hung it on a rope strung across the room. The patriarch was amazed and asked the bishop, "What did you do, Your Grace?" The bishop, not understanding what he did wrong, said, "Nothing, Your Holiness. I just hung my scarf on the rope." The patriarch said, "That is not a rope, Your Grace. Can't you see?" The bishop answered, "Forgive me, Your Holiness. My old eyes are failing me." The patriarch said, "That is a beam of light streaming from the window. And the Lord did not allow your scarf to fall to the ground because you are a holy man." The bishop looked to the ground in humility. The patriarch understood this was a sign from God that the bishop had made no mistake, and instead of asking him about the donations, he asked for his prayers. Then as he was returning to his archbishopric with his disciple, he met some poor people asking for alms, and he gave them all the money he had in his pockets. As they came to the ticket office, the disciple asked for money to buy the tickets. But the bishop told him that he had no money, as he had given it away. The disciple asked him, "How are we going to ride the train then?" The bishop said to him, "Don't worry, son. God will provide for us." And they rode the train. The disciple became nervous, fearing the ticket inspector might come at any second. And yet the bishop sat calmly, trusting God to provide for their needs. Then suddenly a man and his wife carrying a newborn baby came to the bishop, cheerfully asking for his blessing. The man said, "It is a great blessing to meet you, Your Grace. We were coming to visit you. Last year we visited you so you might pray for us to have a child after years of waiting. And we vowed to donate to the church if God answered our prayers. We were on our way to fulfill that vow, although we were worried about traveling with the child. But the Lord arranged our meeting here. Here is the donation, and here are the train tickets. We no longer need them." Then they received his blessing and left. The bishop smiled at his disciple and said, "You see, my son, the Lord always provides." Giving to the poor is a great virtue, one that can save a person from the wrath of God. For the Lord said, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done."